As the country remains in a state of uncertainty, so does the media, as it tries to accurately determine where it goes from here. We're just over a week past the 2020 election, and while many votes are still being counted, members of the media are beginning to show a shift. In other words, we're starting to get a better idea of how many of those most adversarial voices during the Trump presidency are preparing to handle covering a potential Biden administration. Joining us now for analysis on these developments is Adam Guillette, the president of the media watchdog group, Accuracy Media. So, Adam, we already saw some possible ethical questions regarding an MSNBC contributor. Let's take a look at how John Meacham covered the acceptance speech by Joe Biden over the weekend.
The president-elect quoted Martin Luther King tonight, who quoted Theodore Parker, a 19th century abolitionist, talking about the arc of a moral universe being long, but it bends toward justice. It only bends if there are people like John Lewis and people like Jim Clyburn and people like the suffragists and people like the abolitionists who insist that it swerve. That's the dialectic of history. And what's unfolding now is the resumption of a conversation about who we are and who we want to be.
It was later revealed that Meacham actually helped write the speech that he was analyzing. And, Adam, this has to be against journalistic integrity in some way, correct?
Well, an MSNBC journalist goes to work for a Democrat candidate, or as they call it at the network, turning pro. Journalistic ethics don't matter at that network. Journalistic ethics don't matter to the left-wing activist media. They're chasing ratings and attacking right-wingers. That's all they care about.
And we talk about a rotating door in Washington. I don't think that this one goes talked about enough. Oftentimes it's about lobbyists, things of that nature. But, I mean, how many times have we seen someone, for example, come from the intelligence community, talk bad about President Trump or whatever it may be, and then go join CNN or MSNBC? I mean, most recently it was Miles Taylor, the guy who lied to CNN, by the way, about being anonymous, only to then eventually come out as being that person. But speaking of, over at CNN, the tone has certainly been very much so pro-Biden as of so far, but perhaps not more than it's been anti-Trump. So here's CNN's Anderson Cooper on Tuesday night.
In the mid-'90s, I think it was like 96, I was in Kinshasa in the waning days of Mobutu. And Mobutu was a, pretty awful dictator. And when he finally fled the country and the rebels were moving to take the capital, his son drove around in a pickup truck with a machine gun and settling scores with people he felt had not been supported enough with Mobutu. Thankfully, it hasn't come to that here, but I can't believe we're in a situation where a transfer of power is not. I can't believe we are in this situation here. It just seems so petty.
So he actually apologized for comments earlier in the week as well when he made fun of the president's weight. But what does that network do whenever President Trump is out of office, whether it's in 2020 or 2024?
Well, what does that network do? They watch their ratings plummet again and again, as they've seen for several years now. They've been getting clobbered, and they're desperately trying to chase any left-wing audience they could chase by trying to peel off viewers from MSNBC. They don't care about journalistic ethics. They don't care about integrity. They only care about their allies in the Democratic Party, and they care about writing fan fiction stories that appeal to hard left viewers. That's all they're about.
And I know that for a lot of people in cable news, when we talk about CNN, it is a little bit, hard-hitting in a way. I mean, everybody knows that Fox News is the one that's on the right. Everybody knows that NBC, MSNBC is the one on the left. But CNN used to be the mecca, if you will, of the cable broadcast industry. One of the first ones that tried to play it down the middle. But now it looks like they are chasing MSNBC. And to your point, I don't think that they can chase those kind of ratings because that market is basically already tapped. And with the Trump era, it has allowed many people to revive their image, whether it be on MSNBC, as we were saying, or CNN with Miles Taylor, as long as they take an adversarial stance against the president. And this also goes for members of the administration, such as Miles Taylor once again, but also members of his family, and of course, even his infamous former lawyer, Michael Cohen. So here he is, making his long-awaited return to the media world on Tuesday.
He's not going to stay in the White House past January 20th. They will remove him. He knows that. He also, in my opinion, is not after Christmas. He usually comes back January 5th, January 6th. He likes to go to Mar-a-Lago. I suspect he doesn't even come back to Washington. I don't believe he's going to go to the inauguration because he himself fundamentally cannot sit in a chair knowing that the cameras are on him
So, Adam, what happens to these anti-Trump figures, whether it's people like Cohen or the Lincoln Project, for example, once the president is out of office? Will they still have a home in these Democratic circles or in the media?
Well, liberal Republicans like the folks at the Lincoln Project will be tossed aside like that commonly used meme you see on social media. They're of no use to the hard left progressives once they've gained power. These people don't care about integrity. They don't care about being open-minded and working with people who agree with them. They only care about claiming power and ramming their ideas down on other people. All of these are just political tactics to advance their beliefs. They're not journalists. They're not pundits. They're not thinkers. They're hard-hitting activists, and we shouldn't pretend that they're anything but that. Many of them are going to be out of a job if they're no longer of use to the progressives in power.
And in fact, when it comes to people like the Lincoln Project, I'll just say that they're grifters. I don't think they even truly believe what they're saying. They're just taking advantage of the fact that there are a lot of liberals out there who are willing to throw away a lot of money in order to try to unseat Mitch McConnell or Lindsey Graham when it's just not going to happen. We saw it in this past election. Even the polls were remarkably off. So I think that there is a rude awakening. We've already seen people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Ilhan Omar take aim at the Lincoln Project for some of their comments from even before the Trump presidency. So I think we are starting to see a little bit of retribution by progressives against that group. But there was a lighthearted yet memorable moment that took place on MSNBC on Tuesday afternoon. Ken Delanian, he seemed to be facing some obstacles while reporting from home, and unfortunately, they just happened on live television. So let's take a look at that.
NBC's Ken Delanian has some new reporting on something that we talked about at the top of the hour, how the Trump administration is handling the transition with the incoming Biden team, or not handling it, we should say, to a certain extent. This time, it involves our intelligence community. Ken, what have you learned, sir? Okay. Think we lost Ken for a second. We'll try to get him back there.
So I understand things are hard with coronavirus and everything else, but did the pandemic change the media in ways that may be more lasting than this virus itself?
Well, I mean, that's a difficult day for anybody. Anybody who's used Microsoft Zoom or Hangouts or any kind of meeting, we've all had nightmares of a situation like that. When we grew up, we all had the nightmare that you showed up to school and you forgot to put on your pants. I guarantee you, the kids growing up now, that's going to be the nightmare that they grow up with.
No, that's a great point. I mean, here we are. It's been a neutralizer in a lot of ways, too, because, for example, it used to be you had to go to these big studios and have the perfect shot, things of that nature. Now we're getting people straight out of their living rooms, for example, and it's become a detriment for people like Ken Delanian, and I'll just say Jeffrey Toobin as well. I won't get into the details about what happened with his infamous Zoom call, although I did hear that he did get fired from the New Yorker as well today from that. But I don't think that Ken Delanian has the same fate as him or anything like that, but it has been an interesting time watching these news agencies really develop amid this pandemic. But Adam Guillette, it's always a pleasure having you on this program. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much for having me.